For those of you who haven't heard it, Vince Staples' debut album last year, debut double album, produced by No I.D. largely. It's called Summertime '06, and for me, hands down, the most important album last year. You know, I wrote about it for the New York Times Magazine. I was like, you guys need to hear this. And it's for all the reasons you say. His voice is it's so unique, it's so apart, you know, it's very in touch with what's going on in the rap world, but it's utterly himself. And on top of that, the musical universe you created around it, it's deep. It just stands up to so many repeat listens. You know, I had that album on repeat for months. So I would love to hear a little bit, I would love to get some insight into how that came together, because it's so cohesive at the level of lyric, rhythm, flow, and just the kind of sonic landscape.
Right. Thank you. Actually, it was interesting because the first thing I suggested to Vince once we got into working was that I not work with him and that he put out some music without me because I felt like I would be too much of a distraction to him. Yep. And the first project we kind of worked on was a mixtape, and I told him only do songs that have to do with your high school years. Okay. Yeah. Because another reason I think, especially in rap, people age quickly in people's mind. Yeah. You know, people start out in the Lamborghini, rich. Yeah. Where does this end up? Yes. I don't know. You know. So the first thing I did was I wanted him to present himself. I thought he was a really interesting guy. And he made songs about how his father was a street person and his mother and his family, and this was influencing him as a child, although he's intelligent. So it was kind of the why. Why are you who you are? And once we got past that, we began to work on an album, and it took some time. It was a lot of experimentation, and me knowing this unique individual, I had to find a sound that would make him more unique. It couldn't be No I.D. with soul and, oh, it sounds like a Common or a Kanye, or it had to be something else. Yep. So one day we were working, and I think these key words happened. He had this song called North North.
Yes.
And I was like, you know, this record can be a hit. And he goes, I don't want a hit. And I go, okay. But being a creative and not just a businessman, I said, all right. So once I realized what he wanted to accomplish, which was tell a story, not make a hit record, I didn't look at that as a negative. I looked at, okay, this gives us more space to grow. So that gave me a more, I believe melody is key to hits. And that's when we began to pull back on the melody.
Okay, wow.
And it began about sounds, to be about sounds, dissident sounds, sounds that get under your skin.
Absolutely.
Kind of Public Enemy, but not Public Enemy. And then, you know, we kind of got into this space where these records just started happening, because a majority of that double album happened in the last couple months.
Okay.
And we worked on it over a year, but I would say most of the records came.
Yeah, I love your emphasis not only on process, I mean, although that's central, but on this idea that it really is how all these things connect. It's the whole signal flow, as much with the studio technology as it seems like with the people, the musicians you're working with. So one question I have is, you know, say you're working with an artist and they take a direction that you think is detrimental to the way the song is developing. Like, how do you deal with a situation like that?
Oh, I go with them.
Okay.
A lot of I have no because it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about the artist. So even if an artist has to run smack dead into the wall, that is necessary.
Yes.
If I stop them because I know better, they won't, you know. It's one thing for me to tell you, hey, run over there, trip over the step.
Yep.
Yeah, Dion, yeah. But if you trip over the step and you hit your knee, you won't trip over that step anymore. So I don't, you know, this is what it's about. It's about a journey. It's about self-awareness, being able to bring the best out of an artist, helping them grow. One of the best feelings in the world is to help someone find themselves. You know, again, this is the secret to me having a very long career, because it's not just about me. It's about people saying, I did a good job with them. And them being big enough that when they say I did a good job, the person goes, really? Him? Okay, great. Maybe I'll go to him so he can do a good job with me.
And how does that approach, which is wonderful, it's very humble, you know, it's very zen in a way. But how does that work with the money people at the labels who are saying, hey man, we need a hit record, we need a top 10 single, and you're saying let them run into the wall, and then they're like, get us these dollars.
Well, I mean, that's just balance, because you said zen. Zen is balance. So as an executive, I will say, I'm going to sign this many artists, and we won't put pressure on them. And I'm going to sign this many people with commerce. They have records that will work. I'm not worried about them developing, because they're not trying to develop. They just have records. And we all know who they are. I mean, we hear a record, and we like the record, and you don't know who the artist is, and you don't care. And it doesn't matter, and it's okay. It's not a crime, actually. It's just, that's their purpose. Again, if they make you dance, then that's the point. Who cares whether they're a good artist? But there are artists that you want to develop because they're cultural experiences in human form. Those are the ones you have to take time. It's like, you know, don't put the seed in the ground and pour 10,000 gallons of water on it and shine a bright light and expect a tree. You just gotta let it grow.